dude. I need to get it together. They think they can do what we do, but do it better. Jive turkeys getting bread and getting cheddar. Don't get sandwiched by a real competitor. Let them up, I'm getting better. No time to be fed up. Go get us for false profits. Get stoned like Rosetta. I'm just getting started. Sorry, I can't let up. And even if I could, I wouldn't, cause it's a setup for the next line. Wait in line for the next time. My intellect's fine. What I find is nothing's really mine. Do whatever it takes to get better. Do whatever it takes to get better. Do whatever it takes to get better. I am better. I am whatever.
Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of HeroClix. All right. Well, you might be wondering, why am I doing this podcast? And we're going to touch on something that I feel is very important right now. People's feelings on Sentry Void chase figure. Now, I'm going to gripe, and then I'm going to give solutions. So bear with me with this, okay? I know a lot of people are going to hate him. I hate him to an extent as well, and not like hate with the passion, hate to kill someone, but like really solidly disdain the design of the figure. And the main reason that I hate the design of the figure is that it's set up in such an aggressive way that you can't do anything. Like you literally cannot respond before you're hit at most of the times. Now, add in multi-attack, add in psychic blast, add in I hypersonic in, hit a figure on my way to the bigger threat, land where I need to be and take my last shot, pot shot 11 squares away with psychic blast, and then I just slag your piece. That element I don't find fun at all. Now, with that being said, I'm going to tell you something that I haven't put on the forums, and I really debated about putting a show out talking about this, mainly because I'm giving up a lot of personal tech that I could use as an advantage. But from the sealed and unwrapping at one of the venues, no one pulled a Sentry Void. So the biggest threat of someone having it and running me over with it in the immediate future is not there unless something changes in the sealed in the next few days. So I'm throwing out this tech, and the main reason I'm throwing out this tech is not necessarily say for the people that are all tactical play, like, oh look, Dark Logos figured it out, blah 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 blah, you guys are stupid, blah 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 blah. But it's more so to give a starting point on actually how to deal with Sentry Void. So let's get started. First off, let's break things down. Where are we going to hurt him? And then at what point levels? I'm going to start off at 300 points because I feel 300 points is where we're going to start seeing him the most. And I'm going to start saying, like, what is his strengths at each point range, okay? So at 300 points, what Sentry Void says is, guess what? If you play the gauntlet on a short dial figure that does not start off with energy shield deflection with damage with some way of damage reduction, energy shield deflection and super senses, or your team is not providing that, I'm going to punish you. If you have less than a 19 defense going up against him, he's going to punish you. Now that doesn't seem quite encouraging, does it? You have a figure with a 11 attack, and now you're telling me that the solution is to up your defense. But you look at some of my other podcasts, and you'll hear George say, high attack always trumps high defense. And that is true because usually high attack is 12 plus. We're looking at an 11. So in this case, if you're afraid of Sentry Void, high defense will trump high attack. Doesn't mean that you won't be hit, but what it does mean is that his chances of hitting you is going to be a lot lower. So at 300 points, he himself is going to have an 11 range, unmodified, 10 movement, unmodified, 11 attack, unmodified, starting off, 18 defense, unmodified, starting off, 5 damage will be modified with multi-attack. Okay? Now, his multi-attack is going to reduce his damage by 1, meaning that his first attack is going to do 4 if you have invulnerability or impervious. If he hypersonic speeds in, then you can shrug that off if you get your roll, or if you have invulnerability, you're only going to take 2. Where the concern comes in is where he sets up next. This is the deadly part of the combo, people. The first part, people are like, well, he's just going to hypersonic speed and hypersonic speed, move, dance all the time. That is a beginner to medium range player playing the piece. Okay? An experienced player playing the piece will do the following. They're going to either hypersonic, they're going to move up to a certain point, not to make an attack. They're just going to move up. Next, they're going to say, like, okay, well, they're going to move up into a square in which you can't shoot them from. Okay. Then next, they're going to say, all right, I'm about 3 to 4 squares outside of my starting area. This turn, my second turn, I'm going to clear. And then, so you're going to move your team ever so closer. And then he says, okay, they've moved 7 squares out from their starting area. 'Tis game. And at this point, he will hypersonic speed in with a swing of an 11. Okay, then hit something, post up wherever he needs to be, most likely on hindering terrain, take his second shot with Psychic Blast to do 4. Okay, now think about it. If you're doing 4 to your major gauntlet hitter, guess what's happened? They're not going to be that threatening. Sentry Void is the answer to the gauntlet. And I didn't think about that until someone pointed it out. At 300 points, Sentry Void is the answer to the gauntlet because he says, guess what? You won't have a chance to get to godhood if you do not kill me before you get to godhood. If I let you get to godhood, then I've lost. Or even +1 stats. I've lost. But if I don't let you get there, and your super senses fail from your time gem, and you can't hit me, or I keep regenning back up, 'tis game, sir. You can't win. If I take out any of your pieces and you can't kill me in time, I win. That is how Sentry Void is played. He's played completely different than a 300-point Superman, which, again, someone else pointed out to me, his 300-point Superman's main goal is to line up an outwit, pick up a heavy, and come in and hit you with that, and then one-shot KO you. Okay, so that's a completely different game. So the 300-point Superman, the main reason why 300-point Superman isn't considered top-tier meta is because 300 Superman can be outwitted. Now bear with me. 300-point Superman with a heavy does 1 less damage than Sentry Void with multi-attack top dial. Okay, I think Superman starts off, and I'm fact checking myself. 300-point Superman from the Superman set, he starts off with a 5, so he'll do 7. Yeah, with a heavy, and then even from the Fast Forces Superman, he doesn't start off with super strength, so that's a non-issue, and he's 200 points. So going back to Sentry Void, if we're comparing 300-point figure to 300-point figure, Superman only has to roll once to land the hit, to land out his 7 damage. Sentry has to roll twice. Okay, so we've identified another element. He has to roll twice to do more damage than Superman, but only by 1. So Superman does 7, Sentry Void does 8. And now, with that also being said, let's put it in even more clear context. With Sentry Void, if they hypersonic speed in and they're dealing with damage reduction, and your invulnerability or your impervious, and let's say the impervious fails, they're doing 2 follow-up psychic blast of 4, so they're doing 6. So numerically, we can start to see that once you add in your own damage reducers, Sentry Void actually does less damage than Superman just straight off. The target doesn't have Power Cosmic or anything like that. When you add in Power Cosmic and damage reduction, or Quintessence and damage reduction, then we end up in a different place, because now Superman can't outwit, so he comes in and hits you with the heavy object. Let's say Impervious fails, he deals 5. Sentry Void comes in and does 6, but he has to land both attacks. So again, they're about the same damage output wise. Okay, so now that we've gotten that clear, we go back and look at Superman. Well, his swing isn't really as good as Sentry, and this is the next thing that's the issue with Sentry. Sentry has a 26 swing at 300 points. And you're going to say, how does he have a 26 swing? He has 11 he has 11 range. So when he hypersonic speeds, his range is 6, and he has a 10 movement. So multi-attack, hypersonic speed, 10 movement, hypersonic speed, another 10 movement, and you can shoot, and you shoot out that 6, that's 26. Okay, now this is the first time I'm going to introduce the term into HeroClix, and hopefully it takes on. With him, he does something that we haven't thought of with Colossals, is a spread. And the main reason we haven't thought about it with Colossals is because most of the time when they multi-attack, they're stationary. But he's the first one to multi-attack in hypersonic speed. So his spread is him moving from one point to an ending point and everything that he can shoot in between. Okay, in between point A and point B. So his total spread is a lot wider. Now you might say, well, isn't this the same as swing? No, because really with swing, you're looking at getting from point A to point B, usually trying to go back to point A with hypersonic speed, or with a running shot figure, you're only looking at point A to point B to get to targets X and Y. Okay, it almost makes me feel ill saying this. With Sentry Void, he can say, on my way to dealing with Z, I can handle, let's call it Q. I can attack Q and still attack Z. Z's my primary target, but I'm going to hit Q, hurt Q, cripple Q, kill Q. Or anything that comes along my way. Or I could say, I moved up hypersonic speed, I destroyed this wall I needed to destroy, zip through that wall, now I'm down at your front door. You can't do anything. Okay? So there's multiple layers, and this is why I'm saying spread, because he can do multiple things within that multi-attack to allow him to just mess with the battlefield. Okay, so we established what's one of his greatest strengths. His range, his 11 range. We've established his 10 movement as his strength. What's his other strength? He starts off with an 18 defense. And that 18 defense for those first 2 clicks really set a tone on how you're going to be dealing with him. And I hate to say with that 18 defense, it's if you are playing in this game and you are not set to deal with an 18, you might need to start thinking about a new team. Because we're starting to see 20 become common now, from range and from melee, depending on how things are set up. But we're starting to see 20s. So you need to have a way of dealing with an 18. Okay? So that's that. So let's do a roundup. At 300 points, he's stock, straight stock. Okay, he has Psychic Blast starting off. He has Hypersonic Speed starting off. He has Impervious starting off. He doesn't have anything else. If he multi-attacks, his 5 damage is going to become 4 without Psychic Blast on the first hit. If he Hypersonic Speeds again, that's going to be 4, no Psychic Blast. Okay, but that again, I'm saying is that's really like the amateur way of playing him. All right, so coming back. How are we going to crack him at 300 points? And this is where you're probably going to say Dark Logos has been, a little high on himself. All right. Bear with me. Oh, gosh, I'm about to say some stuff that's about to reveal too much and might cost me a Thanos. But for the good of the community, here's what's up. Okay. At 300 points, you have a few options. And when I was talking with Dan Moran, and he was talking about how to beat a 300-point Galactus, I pretty much took a whole lot of the same ideas and I sort of transferred it. You need to look at him as a 300-point Galactus. You need to get him off his first 2 clicks. And that's the key thing. If the Sentry Void player is a beginner to intermediate player, they're going to be looking at the Hypersonic Speed, stick and move the entire time. And let me I know I'm backtracking, but the Hypersonic Speed stick and move game is there so that you can create distance between you and your opponent. Okay? And so that your opponent doesn't have a chance to retaliate. But the average range of most Hypersonic Speed stick and move figures is either 0, 6, or 8. Icon Superman was the last 10, people. I really want you to think about that. That Icon Superman was the last 10 move Hypersonic Speed stick and run piece that we've had. So the amount of damage, the amount of swing and give that he has is a lot larger. He doesn't have to get that close. He can come in, gracefully hit, backtrack out enough squares, and shoot at his full range, or a 10, or even, let's say, a 9 range. So that's a better setup, because at least with Psychic Blast, you know that your opponent isn't reducing down your damage. You have to do as much damage with Sentry Void each turn as possible. Okay, so with that, the first thing I realized, what does he need to be worth his points? And how can I start taking away his points? First thing is Blizzard Thor. Blizzard Thor, by far, is the one thing Sentry Void does not want to see on the other side of the map. Now, you could take Donald Blake, and then you team him up with Tabitha Smith. And Tabitha just puts 2 tokens under Donald Blake. Turn 2, boom, you have Blizzard Thor. Donald Blake will AE into Blizzard Thor. For those who don't know what Blizzard Thor is number 38, if my mind is keeping everything lined up correctly. He's number 38 in the Chaos War set. And when you AE Donald Blake into Blizzard Thor, he starts off with a Blizzard Power. What does the Blizzard Power do, you might ask? Summon Asgardian Blizzard. Characters with the standard damage, or tiny, which Sentry is, he has a standard damage symbol, can't target characters 7 or more squares away. Modify all other character speed values by -2 if they begin an action within 6 squares of Thor. Now, there's a couple of ways of manipulating Thor, and a lot of people are like, well, how does Thor shut down the Sentry Void? I don't see it. Well, the idea is not to shut him down completely, okay? The idea is that we start adding elements to make him hurt. You're not going to get a 300-point magical silver bullet to Sentry Thor. It's not Doom Kang or Kang Doom, because you can't use exploit weakness with multi-attack, unlike some people have been playing him incorrectly. Okay, so coming back, when you use Blizz Thor shuts down his range. Guess what his hypersonic speed swing is going to be? It's going to be a lot less. You know, when he's trying to follow up for that Psychic Blast attack, what have I done? I have completely nerfed down his range, more so than what I could do with Perplex. Now he has to be within 7 to get that Psychic Blast shot off. Now you might say, well, it forces me to have reduced range as well. We're going to get to that. Okay? We're going to get to that as well. Okay? So, the big downside to this is that it gives a -2 to your own people as well for their movement. But if you play it right, it won't be that too much of an issue if you have Donald Blake to the side in your starting area. Okay, so first part, Blizzard Thor. Blizzard Thor messes with Sentry Void's range. Boom, we got that. All right, next up, we're looking at AIM agents. And you might say, Dark Logos, why am I looking at AIM agents? Well, because here's the thing. Sentry Void is going to do one of two things. He's either A, going to take you to a map with a bunch of walls so he can zip around, or B, take you to a map that's open that has a lot of hindering terrain for him to camp on. One of the two. Because if I was playing Sentry Void, I like the idea of being able to hypersonic speed in, get a first attack off, back off, be 11 range out, and then snipe you on top of hindering terrain and giving myself a 19 defense. That's how I look at it. Okay? But why am I going to have a AIM agent? An AIM agent is going to give us two things that are incredibly useful. First, it's giving us Hydra. And if you haven't gotten the complete value of Hydra by now, I don't know what game you've been playing, or your venue has been very nice to you, because my venue hasn't. I've played so much Hydra, PD, etc. that I'm used to knowing. And my 18 defense is probably going to be a 16. Okay? By having two Hydra agents, you're able to do the following, or even one. Two Hydra agents allows you to use Hydra TA with a flying running shot figure, preferably flying running shot Psychic Blast. Next, you're able to either perplex up your attack or perplex down Sentry's defense. You're also able to use Hydra TA to lower down his defense. So that 18 defense really isn't as scary anymore, huh? If you have two Hydra agents and you set up your positioning right, you can now, oh yeah, shoot Sentry. Really, I mean, just shoot Sentry. You can perplex down his defense once, modify his defense down again twice for two Hydras, perplex up your attack, and people, you should have somebody with a 11 attack, at least on your team. So now you have a 12 attack, and against a 15 and 16 if he's on hindering, you should hit him. You should be able to hit him. And you're going to be like, well, Dark Logos, he's hiding behind walls, and he's hiding behind this, and he's hiding behind that. Okay, if he's made an initial shot against you, there should be a path for you to take. Okay. Also, I would also say you don't like. Let's say you don't like the Hydra guys. The Gotham City Police Department officers from the Batman set, if they're adjacent to a police officer, they get perplexed. You're spending more points. 2 more points, and it's very conditional. But once you start tying in those two police officers with Lieutenant Gordon and, oh, dare I say, Green Lantern from the Gravity feed, you don't have an excuse. You can hit him. You can hit Sentry Void. Okay, if you're able to find a better Psychic Blast PD figure, go ahead. But -2 defense from the 2 PDs, plus you get Perplex. His defense, there's no excuse for his defense not to be a 15. Okay, so with that established, the next element. This is the passive element, and these are what I'm going to call soft control on Sentry. And now note, I'm giving you bits and pieces. It's up to you to decide how you're going to implement those bits and pieces for your liking. I don't like the idea of someone saying, well, I give up, I play Earthman every game. That's lazy thinking, because you haven't solved anything. He just still multi-attacks you. He just moves in with his first multi-attack, and his second multi-attack, he just Psychic Blasts you for full damage. Okay? You haven't stopped anything. You haven't stopped his ability to multi-attack. Alright. So, next up, this next bit of tech is soft control. And what I mean by soft control is you're not shutting him down, but you're making him have a harder time. And I'm going to give you soft control options. Okay. While it's in the forefront of my mind is Mole Man, Dinosaur, and you can pick either of these. I prefer that you pick Leech. But you can pick Unspoken one, or whatever his name, the Unspoken. Now, why do I pick Leech, and why do I pick Unspoken? And why do I pick Dinosaur? Well, the thing about Dinosaur is this. Dinosaur is pretty much one of the best taxis you're going to get. And when she carries, let me just read her little special ability. Dinosaur may carry up to 2 characters if they both have the Avengers keyword, which Leech won't. Or 3 if they have the Great Lakes Avengers keyword, which Leech won't. Dinosaur modifies her speed value by -1 for each character carried instead of the normal effects when using carry. So she can carry 9 instead of 8 when carrying Leech. Okay? So she's only carrying 1 character. So she's with mind control from Mole Man, that's 18. You can get Leech within effective range to mess with Sentry Void. Turn 1, turn 2, whenever you decide to deploy it. And for some of those people that aren't that familiar with Leech, I'm going to go ahead and read Leech's trait. Other characters within 6 squares can't be given power actions. What does that mean? He can't hypersonic speed. Sentry Void can be given move actions, but he can't use multi-attack. Ooh, that is annoying. But let's say you don't want to pack Mole Man. Leech plus Dinosaur is 60 points. And you just need to know where you're going to place your objects to put them in stealth. Oh yeah, because Sentry Void cannot crack stealth. And if he can't hypersonic speed up to you, that means that he has to, and he can't multi-attack, that means that he has to just move next to Leech. Okay? I really want this to be baked into your head. If Sentry Void does not base both Leech and Dinosaur, Dinah can just move Leech. And if Dinah breaks away, she just moves Leech. She can move Leech. You can shut him down for less points. Sealed, yes, that's going to be completely bull. Sealed has always been bull since Captain America. But for constructed at 300 points, you can win. Okay? And still, you can pack Victoria Hand and Leech. The next form of soft control that I'm going to talk about is barrier. And why is barrier an issue? because barrier, in all honesty, is sort of bullcrap in how it works. Because you don't need line of sight to all of the squares, just one. There's multiple ways for you to use barrier to be very annoying to the Sentry player. The first thing that you can do is you can use barrier so that this is sort of funny. You can surround him and put leech, right next to him, but outside in the barrier area. So now Sentry Void only thing he can do is punch that wall and end his turn. That's it. He can't multi-attack and get out. You can just pretty much just say alternate barrier. Leech is keeping you locked down. I have 2 aim renegades, and that's pretty much what I did. If the Sentry player is not smart, or even of a beginner to intermediate level, you should be able to trap them, no problem. The other thing that you can do is say, hey, like the Affinity Gauntlet Month 8 map. If Sentry Void goes first and he moves out, and you're on that top area, just throw out barrier. Throw out barrier to sort of form like a cap. And what's going to happen is now Sentry Void has to pretty much bust down that wall. Okay, and then attack you. He can't just fly in and smack you. All right. So now what you've done is you forced him to cut his damage in half. So he spent 4 damage attacking the wall. He now is forced to post up to make the Psychic Blast attack. If he doesn't post up to make the Psychic Blast attack, then again, if you have any form of damage reduction, he's only doing 2. And now he's in a very punishable position. So, and make sure you have 2 barriers. Dual barrier is essential. Alternating barrier is essential. And it's not like stranger barrier teams where the goal is to stall out and my opponent can't do anything. No, it's the complete opposite. That barrier is there for Sentry to eat damage, to eat a turn of damage. That's there to sort of draw him in. It is a indirect bait. It's indirect bait. You're cutting his damage in half by having that barrier up. Now, some people will say, well, why don't I just have 4 barrier pieces and I can put dual barrier up and he'll never touch me? No, because eventually the Sentry player will get wise and just says, why should I go out there? I can just wait for a roll-off. You have to give them an incentive to come in and get you. And then from that point on, you should have TK on your team so that you can TK out your barrier piece, and then somebody that can fly out the second barrier piece so that you can alternate cage barrier. One additional element to consider is Morgan Le Fay and what I'm going to call the perplex nuclear option. Now, the perplex nuclear option works as so. You don't necessarily need Morgan Le Fay, but Morgan Le Fay makes this way easier. And since Avengers is going to be the easiest team for you to build at 300, really plus, Morgan Le Fay helps you out. You don't break theme. Also, she's a minion of Doom, which is sort of ironic and sort of mean at the same time, but accurate. Going into why Morgan Le Fay is a big deal, what I want you to do is just go over with me somewhere magical and look at her dial. Her dial, really, is it a huge threat to Sentry? No. Like I'm more saying this when it comes to straight up numbers. Straight up numbers game, she's not really packing like, oh, look at that crazy damage that Morgan Le Fay does. Okay, but what Morgan Le Fay, well, actually her first click is sort of good. What Morgan Le Fay does is she does the following. First off, she has my alternate Avengers. Morgan Le Fay can use Perplex, but only to target a character with the Avengers keyword. Guess what Sentry has? When she does, she may use it normally, or she can modify any value except damage by +2 or -2. Any Avengers team ability, theme team may include Morgan Le Fay and still a theme team. That's my alternate Avengers. Her next trait is Cold Steel. Cold Steel is my Bane. That has to deal with Blaze Claw's Fangs. We can move that out. She just takes one more from Blaze Claw's Fangs. Astral Form Fay. Morgan Le Fay can use Toughness at the beginning of your turn. Choose either Combat Reflexes or Energy Shield Deflection. Morgan Le Fay can use that chosen power until your next turn. So Morgan Le Fay is a 19 from range. If she picks Energy Shield Deflection, she has Psychic Blast, Shape Change, so it's going to be a little bit harder for her to be hit by Sentry. So she's sort of nice to have. 10 attack, no movement attack. That's fine. She has regen near the end of the dial, and she has probability control on clicks 2, 3, and 4. In my control on clicks 2, 3, and 7. Why is she a big deal? This is, and I'm going to call this the Perplex Nuclear option. And the main reason is this. Sentry has an 11 attack. I use Morgan Le Fay to lower Sentry's attack down to a 9. That's still sort of good. And then I use another figure to move up and perplex down Sentry's attack again to an 8. Multi-attack with the 8 all you want, you're not hitting a 19. You're just not. You're not hitting 18 really seriously most of the time. You can decide to say, okay, I'm going to push past my first click and prop. You can do that. But I do sort of consider this as one of the main powers that you can use to nerf him. If you pack 3 perplexes and you know that you don't have the ability to just come in and attack him that turn, just send your 3 perplexes out and perplex down his attack. He's going to have an 8. And then just make sure that all your perplexers either get like a defend or some sort of like energy shield deflection, something. So that now Sentry has to run away. And then you just make it so that you can keep pursuing Sentry. So I'm calling this the Perplex Nuclear option. Feel free to use it. I think that this is really one of the more easier options to use. And then also it allows you to use it on multiple teams. It doesn't just work against Sentry. And you can use those perplexes in other forms and fashions. But next up is pretty much Mystics. Why I do not support Mystics as a way of dealing with Sentry Void is that the exchange rate is too high. 1 to 4 is too high. 1 to 5, if he really wants to get you, because let's assume he moves up and then just Psychic Blast, that's too high. He takes 1, he will just Psychic Blast again. He takes 1, then he just flattens everything. So overall, I don't like Mystics. I do see the value of it, but I'm also going to tell you this. Let's look at our lineups. We're going to deal with other teams. What happens when we deal with a Cypher team? Can we survive? And at 300 points, that's going to be a lot tougher. Okay? So now I'm going to talk about Victoria Hand. And I want to try to make sure I can get this as best as possible to sort of display why Victoria Hand can just start jacking with characters. Okay, and I look at her as a means of severely hurting Sentry. Now, your first thing with Victoria Hand is, if possible, use her shield TA, and when you push her, have her to push to use shield TA so you get a power action out of it before she gets onto her special power. And so I'm going to read something with Victoria Hand that's interesting. I'm going to read her trait. New Avengers Coordinator, Victoria Hand, and adjacent friendly characters with Avengers keyword modify their attacks by +1 if they are on their first click. So if you're on your first click and you're adjacent to Victoria Hand and you have an 11 attack, you now have a 12 if you have the Avengers keyword. So there's several figures that I think are going to be really powerful with that combination. And now, no, just think about all my commentary that I had about PD or Hydra and all these other guys that you have there. You can do a lot of stuff with adding in Victoria Hand to give you an attack boost, on top of everything else. Next is Traitor or Not. Give Victoria Hand a power action. If she began the game on your force, she becomes friendly to an opponent's force at the beginning of each of that opponent's turns. That player deals 1 unavoidable damage to another friendly character. Okay, this is the countdown for Victoria Hand. So I want to try to make it as clear as I can possibly make it. You can use Jinku or Tabitha Smith to sort of detonate her down. But the main goal is you don't want her to have 2 tokens unless you have something like Harvey Dent. If you have a figure like Harvey Dent that's giving, or any other thing that's giving your friendly characters willpower, then that's how you're going to get the most out of Victoria Hand, because I'm going to give you the following count, and this is where Victoria Hand breaks stuff if you have Harvey Dent. If you have Harvey Dent, she has willpower. She pushes on to her Traitor or Not click. Then pretty much you give her, she does another action, most likely just giving you shield. Okay? Once she gives you shield or power action or whatever else, and she has she has 1 token, then you're going to Traitor or Not to give her the 2nd token. She won't take pushing damage because you're next to Harvey Dent, because that's your action. She did that action while she was friendly on your team. Now she's on the opponent's team. Now the countdown is like such. First, at the beginning of your opponent's turn, they'll take a damage, so Sentry's going to take a click. Sentry has to spend that turn and clear her. Second turn, Sentry gives her an action. Sentry's taking a click. Next turn, Sentry takes another click, gives her another action to push her. Okay? So now she's on her last click. Okay? Then Sentry has to clear her next turn. So he's taking 4 now. Then Sentry gives an action. So Sentry is taking another click and then gives her action. So that's 5. And then she takes gives Sentry another click of damage, 6, and then pushes. That's 6 turns. That's 6 turns that she can live. Okay, so if you can hold out that long, this is some soft, whittled down control. Now, if you do not have a Harvey Dent on your team or something giving you willpower of some sort, here's how the countdown is going to work. You're going to activate that power with no action tokens on you previously. Send Victoria over, sorry. Victoria is going to immediately be pushed. Okay? So then Victoria will have 2 tokens. Okay, so you've given Sentry 2 clicks of damage. Sentry then has to clear Victoria Hand, so that's 3. Give an action token, that's 4. Given the beginning of the next turn is 5, then she's dead. So you're doing 5. So you can do 5 clicks with Victoria Hand. That's a lot of control. The downside is that now Sentry has access to shield TA. If Victoria Hand is in a position to actually be useful. Okay? But most of the time, if you play her right, she's out in the side of the map somewhere. She got delivered over there, and all she did was, just sit there and have a dance party. Okay? So, I really, really, really want you to think about that. Now, some people might say, well, if Victoria gets over to Sentry, then he's going to have +1 attack, then shield, +1 damage. Yeah, that's going to hurt you. But if you've played it wrong, then I'm sorry. There's really nothing I can say. But other than that, I see Victoria being really annoying when Colossals, fighting against Colossals. So that's our easy control of him. And let's just sort of wrap up our easy control of him. We have Blizzard Thor to nerf his range. We have Blizzard Thor to nerf his range. We have Leech and Dinosaur for 60 points just to make sure that he can't do power actions. We have Victoria Hand to click him down. We have Mystics to sort of assist in that chip damage, but really I'm not liking it. And then also sort of coming back with Barrier of baiting him in. Okay, so these are elements of control that you should be able to do. Okay, you should be able to fit, if not 2 or 3 elements on, at least one. You can always fit at least one element on there. Okay, the next thing where we're going to look at to sort of control him is that stealth. Stealth kills him. And the main reason it kills him is that he doesn't have super strength. There is no incentive to make him do a melee fight whatsoever. And some people might want to say, well, how am I supposed to give my whole entire team stealth? That doesn't seem possible. Well, there's multiple options. Of course, there's the, I think it's like Midnight's, it's not Midnight Suns, it's like Marvel Knights ATA. Gives stealth. Batman Ally team ability that gives stealth. Wildcarding, either of those abilities give stealth. You also have your hand ATA and your League of Assassins ATA, which again forces Sentry to make melee attacks. If you bring Barrier, which you should be, you just have them all sit and chill by your Barrier, because that is blocking terrain. It does sort of count as a wall. And you could just sit by it, and Sentry can't shoot you. So now he has to do melee attacks. Now he has to park in a very, very, very just uncomfortable, bad position for him. Okay, so now he's paid for 11 range and he can't use it. Oh! So, stealth and, League of Assassins ATAs. There's also another one, and she came out in the set, and a lot of people were like, well, the set didn't really give us options of dealing with Sentry Void. I just couldn't see it. It's there. It's there. Just a lot of people like to complain. So we're going to another unique, and her name is Sharon Carter. For a lot of people, you might say, well, why am I playing Sharon Carter? What advantage does Sharon Carter really give me when all's said and done? So, Sharon Carter provides us with the following. Her trait. Secret Avengers Coordinator. Sharon Carter and adjacent friendly characters with the Avengers keyword can use stealth. Let's see. What does Sentry struggle against? Stealth. What's the most common keyword out there right now? Avengers. What also does she have? Oh my gosh! If I push her, she gets perplexed, and she has the shield TA. So, if I put all these elements together, wouldn't that help me kill Sentry Void? Yes, it would. The garden map is the perfect place to hide. Out in the open. There's nothing for him to do. He can't get around it. So, I know I'm sorry. It sort of seems I'm patronizing. I apologize. But there's options. There are lots of options, people out there. There's tons of things that you can do. Next up, the next thing that I want us to look at in that 300-point format when dealing with Sentry Void is, now you might again say, oh, why are you bringing up this figure? And you might also be saying, this figure isn't, it's good, but I don't see what it solves anything that's going on with Sentry Void. And it's 98-point Hawkeye. By far the best rare I've seen in a long time. A real long time. And the awesome thing about him is he gets running shot in stealth, in willpower, in leadership. Then he gets knockout gas. You could push to it, but I don't think it's worth it. Hawkeye can use energy explosion. When he does, after action resolves, give one action token to each character hit by the attack. So you might say, well, why am I doing that? It's simple. You're in stealth. You running shot in stealth. You energy explode Sentry with an 11 attack. Then he takes no damage. And then he gets incapacitated. It just says characters hit. It doesn't say he has to deal damage. So now you've tokened him. It's not going anywhere. I say this, and one thing you might say, well, why didn't you bring up incapacitate as an option before? Well, the fact of the matter is, with incapacitate, it doesn't rely on you hitting. Incapacitate relies on you hitting. Everything else I sort of talked about didn't rely on you landing not a thing. Okay, so incapacitate is sort of semi-dependable. Now, the other thing about, really that's real interesting about Hawkeye is that he has the Thunderbolts keyword. Cheers. You can turn into whatever you need to. In the Spider-Man TA. So you can copy mystics from that Scarlet Witch. So that means that you can pick up PD team ability on Hawkeye. Wow. Very easy to do. And then also that starting 12 attack is just baller. It's like grade A Michael Jordan in his prime baller. That's how good it is, okay? So Hawkeye, Thunderbolts. All sorts of awesome to be had. Okay? So that's in 300 points, and let's just do a real brief breakdown on how do you crack Sentry Void. You have multiple options. The easiest options really is just have a barrage of Psychic Blast Pulse waivers. It's not that much harder than that. Kang, get him on that second click and watch Sentry Void be concerned. And I'm talking about the new Kang, not the duo Kang. Just for the pure fact that you have a 9 range running shot Psychic Blast. 4 damage, but I digress. No matter what, if you don't, let's say you don't have a lot of solid attackers, and you only have one figure that's going to be dealing penetrating damage, what you want to do is to you want to hit him for 3, get him on that invulnerability click, and if you get him on that invulnerability click, he won't be able to get around anywhere. His clicks 3 and 4, it leaves him completely immobile. It forces him to use his multi-attack on movement instead of attacking both times with hypersonic speed or running shot. Let that marinate in your head a bit. Okay, is it done? All right, time for it to go in the oven. You could get a Psychic Blaster like Punisher from, what was it, Incredible Hulk, to deal him 2. But then you're dealt with the problem of he's back on Impervious. That wastes your time. You want to get him on Invulnerability. Clicks 2, clicks 4, clicks 6 are his invulnerability clicks. So then you need to be doing odd numbers of damage. That's 3 and 5. Okay? 3 and 5. I want you to keep those. I want you to keep that simple number in your head. You need to make sure that Sentry Void takes 3 clicks of damage or 5 clicks of damage. So let's say you have Kang, and you're looking at Kang and you have him on his running shot Psychic Blast click. And you're like, ooh, he has 4 clicks of damage, and I don't have anybody else that does penetrating damage. But I do have a lot of people that do 3 damage, though, or 4 damage. Oh, okay. Then you need to say, all right, do I have a Perplex? Oh, I only have 1 Perplex on my team. Okay, I have to use it on Kang's damage to make it a 5 so that I can land Sentry Void on his invulnerability click 6. Real simple. Okay? With him only having 5 clicks of 11 attack, once you get him past those first 5 clicks, his chances of hitting you go down. Definitely if you still have anything that can up your defense. Okay? So landing that first solid attack on him is essential. Paramount. Gotta do it. Okay? So, remember 3 and 5, 3 and 5, 3 and 5. The next thing that you're going to notice is that after you get him off his hypersonic speed, he has running shot, Psychic Blast, Exploit, running shot, Pulse Wave, blah, 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 blah. And this is the stage, clicks 7, 8, 9, and 10 is when you have to be worried. And why do I say you have to be worried? Because he has the ability to turn into Sentry or Void. And this is where, in all honesty, I get sort of annoyed at the piece. Because if they didn't allow you to change into Sentry or Void, it would be great. But anyway, it allows into that second trait, which Sentry Void has, which is sort of bull. But anyway, what's going to happen is if you're able to catch, you have to catch that Sentry Void piece with 2 tokens, or you put a token on him. So he came in, he did his jazz, you hit him for 5. Boom. You're in the winner circle, you hit him with that incapacitate, boom, 2 targets. Sentry Void cannot transform. Cannot transform whatsoever. Now, you just say, 'tis my day to win, and kill him. Push, he has to clear, next turn, push your figures, kill him. Good game, you win. Hyper combo finish, yay! That's for all my Marvel vs. Capcom fans out there. Alright, but let's say you can't. Let's say the dice, didn't smile on you and they just bounced in an odd manner. The one thing that's good to know is that Sentry Void, if he turns into Void or Sentry, is downgrading his damage once he transforms. He's just hedging the bet that once you kill Void or Sentry, that he'll get that last click off of Sentry and Void. Okay? So I want you to keep that in mind. Now, on click, sorry, not click 4. When he has 4 clicks left, he's going to say, oh, when he starts on that running shot, first click of running shot, he's going to say to himself, man, I'm not in hindering, if I'm in hindering terrain, going stealth is going to be useful. If your team doesn't have any anti-stealth. So going to Void would be useful. Then you would have to do a whole melee game. Unless you have Pulse Wave in TK. Okay? And then his range goes from 11 to a 9. But he has Steel Energy, he's not on regen, and it's sort of risky to push into regen, because he just gave up a click, and he's betting that I'm going to survive to clear, not only clear, but to just get one action in regen. Okay, so that's what he's saying, and I have shape change, and shape change is going to save me. With Void, when he has Steel Energy, there's no reason whatsoever for you to get. There's no reason if you can to get base with him, because you're just giving him free healing. You don't want to do that. Now, if he turns into Sentry, this is the one where I'm sort of up in the air about, because if he turns into Sentry, he's pretty much saying, screw it, just screw it. I'm coming for the win. I don't care what it's going to cost me. I'm coming to keep the pressure on you. And he's going to perplex up his attack to an 11, which is the highest attack he's going to get, and just come in and bash one of your guys for 3. And he's going to slug it out. He has little incentive to hide, if any. Okay? Or he could just run away. But if he turns into Sentry, he's definitely coming in for melee attacks. He's expecting to push into exploit weakness, pick up an object, and hit you. So be very, very, very careful if he turns into Sentry. Void is a safer bet. Most people are going to try to push on the Void, stay at range as best as they can, and do what they do. After you've gone through your drama with Sentry or Void, and you've killed him, Sentry and Void are going to come back on their last click. Now, a good Sentry and Void player is going to make sure when they look like they're close to dead that they are not going to get 2 action tokens on them. Now, why do I say that? Now, I want you to really think about, why did I say that? Because he has multi-attack, and he can multi-attack regen. And then also, if he just transforms back into Sentry Void and he has 2 tokens, it doesn't do him any good whatsoever to be stuck. So if you play it right against the Void, when Sentry Void turns into Void or Sentry, if you catch the Void player unprepared and they push, kill him. Kill that Void right then. Doesn't matter what you have to cough up, as long as you know you can get in 3 attacks in that turn. And the main reason I say 3 attacks is this. 1 to hit to knock him down to 15 defense, because I'm assuming that you're damaged yourself. Another 1 to kill him. Then he kind of turns into Sentry Void, and the 3rd to finish him. Okay? It requires you to be aware of this the entire time. If they don't put that extra token on him, and you can't put a token on him, just do what you need to do during that downtime. Punish him only after he has a token. Punish him after he has a token. You never want to attack Void or Sentry if they have no tokens, if you know it's going to KO them. No reason to. Because all you're doing is setting it up for when it turns into Sentry Void, multi-attack, regen, okay, I regen, now I running shot pulse wave you, or I running shot psychic blast you, or if you're real unlucky, hypersonic speed hit you and then, or run away until I can set up again. So that's what I really want you to realize. 300-point game, you should be able to handle these elements, and you should be able to do something. And remember, the barrier game works real good on Void or Sentry. Like, boom, barrier, you can't do anything. Remember, they can't multi-attack. They can't get out. They are literally trapped. And that's definitely, you want an indoor map. So they can't fly out. So, all right. Now let's boost up to 400 points. Not much changes at 400 points, because at 400 points, the only thing that changes is how many perplexing probbers can he fit. And he's most likely going to fit in a TKer, which is going to boost his range to 36, I think. No, it's not 36. His swing is 26 already, so then plus 8 is going to be 32. No, hold on, wait. That's not right. It's 34. Ugh. It's going to boost it up to 34. So it's whole map. This with the TK at 400 points, you just have to realize once you are no longer immune, he can hit any of your figures. So once you realize that, you can turtle, but it's better off for you to make sure that you have those figures like the Unspoken and Leech and Stealth and objects placed strategically throughout the map to utilize Leech. So you need to think about that. You need to actually, this is the first time in the game where I would say you need to look at all the maps in your ownership and figure out where you're going to place Leech or where you're going to have Earthman camp out so he doesn't die. You really need to be serious about that. Okay, next up, once we look at 400 points, the only thing that's really added is TK and Perplex. So really nothing much changes except knowing, okay, I need to make sure I have another element that makes it really tough for Sentry and Void, while realizing I can use some of these elements on against other teams. I don't like Earthman because Earthman only works against Cosmic Spider-Man, Darkseid, Sentry Void. It does not work on anything else. And you're stuck. Or Galactus. And Tester. It doesn't do anything else. And you pigeonholed yourself into this 98-point, very ineffective piece. And I know, I've played him multiple times. So don't be intellectually lazy. Don't just play Earthman and think, I nerfed him. I nerfed Sentry Void. It's all good. You're going to lose. I'm just going to be honest with you. You're going to lose. 500 points is where everything gets sort of weird. Because at 500 points, you can start adding in things that get ridiculous with him. You can start adding in Sharon Carter. Seriously. You can start adding in the Nick Fury that gives you ultimates. You can start adding in more and more game elements that gives him help. And not like punk help. Like serious help. Like I have a follow-up attacker help. And I'm still Avengers theme. Okay? So that is the biggest flaw at dealing with him at 500 points or more. And then I am sort of lumping in, let me say that, 500 to 800 points. Because definitely at 800 points, you're just giving him a 300-point team. And now I know a lot of people would say, well, I'm just going to cram as much Perplex and Prob as I can on there and just let him go buck wild. No, he's going to die. He's going to die. Because let's say you cap out his damage at 8 and have him multi-attack to 7, okay? And he pops first attack 7, second attack 7. He's put the biggest attackers on the opponent's team on their last clicks. Unless he's, conservatively, let's say he puts, well, let me phrase that, 7, yeah, 7. You're in a tough position, and the main reason you're in a tough position is that at that point value you have medics. At that point value you have medics and prob. Not only that, if he fails to kill one figure per turn, then that retaliation on 2 to 3 turns from now is going to be really heavy. Once Sentry Void has those 2 tokens, he's a dead duck. Because those medics have healed back up those main attackers, or, Sentry Void took out some support, but those main attackers just got in a position and said, forget it, we're going to push. You know, you can punish Gauntlet users with Sentry Void at those point ranges, but really, if you just try to make it all about Sentry Void, he's going to die. Okay, so you're better off with some form of a team. And when he brings in his own Hawkeye, when he brings in a Scarlet Witch at 75 points, when he brings in Wasp to incapacitate, all these other different elements sort of tied in with the Sharon Carter, with the Nick Fury and all the other stuff, it can get overwhelming. And this is where I feel that Sentry Void, if you're going to try to kill him, you need to have an overall team plan. And you need to say, all right, we are going to shut down his support and then do this, or we are going to make sure that we are going to double single target pulse wave him, or I'm going to TK out Black Bolt and just punk his team. You need to have a plan. Okay, big games now, you're going to have a plan of when Sentry Void shows up, just the same way you have to have a plan when Galactus shows up. Remember, people, you can't counter everything, but you can make it more difficult for your opponent. Finally, in 1,000 points and beyond, don't be afraid of him. And the main reason you don't need to be afraid of him is because of Tester. If you have a Tester, oh my gosh, all you need to do is make sure you play Tester and punk Sentry Void so hard every time his team fails test. And then really, here's how you're going to punk his team. You're going to do 2 to Sentry Void and the other 4 to their medic and kill their Donald Blake. I think you could kill Donald Blake. But anyway, you're just going to make their medic just bad. And then make sure you just, first turn multi-attack, pop out, hit their medic, dead. Or really, like, hit Sentry Void for 6, pop out, first turn, hit the medic, make sure it's dead. Make sure your medic's good, or your 2 or 3 medics, pop back, heal. Heal up Tester. Same thing goes for Galactus and the Herald. You see Sentry Void, Novar knows who he's going after. He just running shots. All he does is just Psychic Blast or Pulse Waves or running shot Pulse Wave, running shot Psychic Blast, whatever. It's pretty much GG. If you really want to risk your Galactus just to fuel up your Herald to just rout Sentry. So consider that. Don't be afraid of him at big games. If you build a solid team, you should be able to handle him. You should have enough attacks and enough actions to handle Sentry Void. Alright, now this last part comes down to objects, and I'm going to say this. You can play objects. You're most likely going to play the Gauntlet. 300-point games make it real scary now for Gauntlet holders. Before I was like, man, Gauntlet, no risk. Sentry Void actually creates a legitimate risk, because there is no guarantee that you're going to get enough time to get anything useful out of the Gauntlet. That includes support Gauntlet figures. I put it on Astral Strange. Boom, Sentry Void pops in. Pop that. Killed that Astral Strange. Who's next? Kill you. Hurt you. You've lost now points just for playing the Gauntlet when you could have played another figure. And I know this is the first time in our logic that we've actually had to say it is better, or almost better, for you to play another figure than the Gauntlet, and the Gauntlet has risk because of one figure. I really want you all to digest that. And I can't take credit for it. Some other poster on the forums brought that up. That he doesn't, at 300 points, Sentry Void doesn't have a Gauntlet to invest in. He just goes in and does what he does. You have to wait for that Gauntlet to be worth time. You have to wait for equity to build up. Sentry Void doesn't have to wait for equity. So, so objects-wise, it's tough. And the main reason it's tough is because we're back to old tech again. Like real old tech. And I don't like it, but it's necessary. First off is Crimson Gem. Crimson Gem is useful for one simple reason. You're getting more damage. You're getting more damage. That's it. That's all you care about. You don't care about the charge. You don't care about the super strength. You don't care about the toughness. Sentry has Psychic Blast. He has penetrating damage for all, in some form, all but a few clicks. You are looking at getting that +1 damage on your Psychic Blaster. You're making sure Kang has that 5 damage once he goes into Psychic Blast Sentry. That's it. Next up is Scorpio Key. I never thought I'd be revisiting Scorpio Key. It is a great 4-point piece, and it gives you +2 range of Psychic Blast, and that just helps you chase him down. It makes moderately ranged figures really good, and it makes long-range figures super good. Or it's excelente in Spanish. So Scorpio Key, you're back to considering that. Gamma Bomb, don't waste your time. Just don't waste your time. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Green Kryptonite. Go back to John Jameson tech that I gave you like 9 months ago. Almost 9 months. At least 7. With John Jameson pushing to carry the Green Kryptonite around. He's my quarterback. He is your quarterback. And him carrying the Green Kryptonite, what it does is characters within 4 squares modify their attack values by -1 and can't use flight ability. Characters within 4 squares that possess the Superman ally team ability or a Kryptonian keyword can't have damage dealt to them reduced below 1. Now, there's a lot of Supermans floating around and Eradicators, and yeah, this object can sort of mess with them, but you're not looking at it for that. You're looking at this as a cheap way of lowering Sentry Void's defense and then making sure he can't fly. And in making sure that he can't fly, that makes maps with hindering terrain even. And you might say, why does it make it even? Okay. Let's say you don't have stealth. Let's say that you don't have hand TA or anything else that's going to help you at range. Him being able to choose to be in hindering terrain and realizing that it's not going to harm him in any way is an advantage. When you add in Green Kryptonite, what that says to him is, oh, if I go on hindering terrain and he catches me at a bad time, I'm going to be grounded. And yes, I'll have +1 to range, but my swing is hurt because now I have to multi-attack, kill the figure that's holding the Green Kryptonite, and then kill the Green Kryptonite so that next turn I can hypersonic speed and fly off of this. Okay? He either has to do that or pick a move action first turn, move half his movement because he's on hindering terrain, and then proceed to go buck wild crazy on your team. But look, here's the other problem though. If you position it just right, remember Green Kryptonite has a swing. It has a radius. Okay? So if he comes towards your team, he's still under the effects of Green Kryptonite. You can have pretty much 8 square radius, 8 squares in which that green kryptonite is being effective. So, John Jameson, your quarterback and mine, think about it. Next up is red kryptonite. Characters within 4 squares must roll a d6 immediately before they are given a non-free action. On a roll of a 1 or 2, the character is given a power action to do nothing instead, but can use Perplex until your next turn if they can't already. Red kryptonite leech. I know this is old tech. One-man armies, shut them down. I mean, this shuts them down. Okay? And you might say, well, what if he doesn't roll a 1 or 2? He can still get out. For him to do any power actions, he still has to deal with leech. Okay? So, guess what? You rolled a 1 or 2. You can't do anything. Leech says you can't do a power action. You can't perplex up yourself. I got you trapped. Yes, there's a lot of risk with this. It is not guaranteed. But again, let's really look at this, people. If you play this right, okay, if you play this right, you are able to have whoever you decide to pick it up, picks it up. Okay, and when they pick it up, they put themselves, how can I put it? They put themselves in a sacrifice pawn position so that the rest of your team can kill him. If by chance you say, all right, I did this and my guy that has the red kryptonite had rolled a 1 or 2 to move, and now you have perplex. That figure is now perplexing you. At no point in time does this hurt you. It only hurts him. Bigger point games, there's a little bit better options, but for 300, 400, dare say 500, 500 is about the edge of it, this tech works well. Okay. Next up is gold kryptonite. Now, gold kryptonite has been one of those things that's been lost since the gauntlet. No one ever thinks about it, and its 10-point cost really throws a lot of stuff out of whack for people's thinking. You stop Psychic Blast. Characters within 4 squares can't use Psychic Blast, Exploit Weakness, Pulse Wave, or Telekinesis. A character holding this object can't use any power actions can't use any powers except Super Strength. Wow. Now I know. Sentry Void cannot pick up the object, so what's the big deal? No, the big deal is you get your quarterback, you have him pick it up, you have all your little damage reducing, fiends on your team, far, far away from this object, and you just run your quarterback up. He's got that gold kryptonite, and he's going to make sure that Sentry Void, if he's going to use Psychic Blast anywhere near you, again, that 8-range radius, that he's going to be very, very inconvenienced in doing it. Okay? That's it. He kills my gold K carrier. Doesn't stop the fact that gold K is immediately right where that carrier was. And you wasted an attack to kill my gold K carrier? Thank you. That's one attack that you didn't spend on my main attacker. Really think about that. I really want you all to get that into you. Any time that Sentry Void does not attack your main attacker is a good thing. You are sacrificing pieces so that can happen. Now, this just came to my mind. So the efficiency of it isn't quite there. Ultron, 90 points, summons in, I think, Tony Stark drone. I mean, not Tony Stark drone. What is it? It's like an Iron Man drone. Yeah, Iron Man drone. Super strength. 30 points. Free move. You get a free move for 4 squares. and then it has like a movement of 6. I mean, so you can move a Iron Man robot drone for 10 squares. Okay, just 10 squares. Think about that. How powerful could that be if he's picking up the white K, red K, green K? Yes, okay. So I'm sort of a little bit done yelling at you for right now. Okay, so with all those things together, we can see that the kryptonites give us a whole lot of awesome. They give us lots of various advantages. Okay, the last item that I want you all to consider is questionable. And the main reason I say it's questionable is because a lot of people, and even myself, I've talked trash on this item. I really have. But this is the first time that it's actually useful. And no, it's not the Nova Corps helmet. It's the Cosmic Cube. Easier to pick up than any other object in the game, giving you a 50-50 chance. Getting Perplex and Prob, but having to roll each time you use either of those powers is sort of suck, and you only can pick it up once per game, which sort of sucks. The 12-point value that you put in is high. At 300 points, it's really high. But I want you to think of it like this. If you cannot depend on rolling for the gauntlet to get up to your powers that you need, what else can you do? Realistically, what else can you do? And there's not much. Now, the Perplex and Probability Control, you're going to need it just from jump. You're going to have to pack your Side Blaster. You're going to have to pack your Pulse Wave. You're going to have to pack your TK. And you're going to have to be ready for it. And realize how he's going to come down the pipe. But with that being said, the Cosmic Cube allows for your quarterback, if you have one, to be set up perfectly. Just be set up perfectly so that he can pick that up, and if he drops it, that's fine. He's going to go tie up Sentry and Void. He's just going to go adjacent to him. He's going to be a hindrance. But, he has the Cosmic Cube, and Sentry Void now has to shoot him, because if you hold on to that Cosmic Cube, that piece is giving you Perplex and Prob. He can't let that go on. Again, people, every turn that Sentry Void is not attacking your main character, that is a win. You are winning. Okay. I know I've been going on for a while, and it's just tough. I understand. It's real tough. And I know for a lot of people, the idea of packing more medics and barrier and all that other stuff is annoying, or it seems cheesy. But I must say, you're going to have to start thinking about more Perplex, more barrier, more team abilities that give you an edge, more powers that work with team abilities, more ATAs. And it's sort of sad for the casual player that now you have to be drawn into the realm of a hardcore player so that you can have fun or so that you can compete. But I do want you to say to everybody that listens to this, share this podcast in particular with everybody at your venue. I know I've said that before, and you might say, like, oh, he's just trying to get more listeners. But really, for everyone that whines, for everyone that complains, for everyone that says Sentry Void is broke, I want you to give them this podcast. And I want you to tell them to go download this podcast. Heck, you can sit there during the rounds and listen to it if your judge would allow it. But really, really, really take this into account. For anybody that's going into Gen Con, yeah, Sentry Void will probably be there if someone's lucky enough to get it. But you don't have to be stuck. You don't have to feel like you're powerless. You don't have to feel like there is nothing for you to do. There are things for you to do. And that's the main reason I started this podcast, is so that everyone can have the opportunity to compete and for everyone to realize that you can win. Even when monstrous pieces come out, you can win. Alright, this is the Starting Over podcast. If you have emails that you want to give me, questions, comments, concerns, email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. I really do enjoy getting emails, and I enjoy helping people build teams for their venues and allowing them to sort of see a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole. All right, the next show, literally, which will be popping up very, very soon, is Dan and I looking at Chaos War set. So that's it. And people, remember, we all have to start over sometime.